Hi, it's Kelly here from Spiritual Awakening Signs, coming to you today with a masterclass all about true self. So it's about how to align with true self, how to embody your divine soul to experience higher vibrational living that flows with ease. That's the key. When you really align with true self, everything else just flows. In this video, we're going to cover quite a lot of content, so I think you'll really enjoy what we've got in store for you. We're going to cover what true self really means. We're going to talk about the secret best time of the year that you can access your higher soul self. This makes it super, super easy. It makes it effortless, so you don't want to miss that. We're going to talk about 3 signs that you are seriously out of alignment with your true self. So you'll be able to identify if that's the case, and of course, what to do about it if it is. And we'll talk about our 3 steps to finding your true, authentic self, accessing your hidden spiritual gifts and abilities, because they're always in there, and manifesting a higher vibrational life that flows with ease. Wonderful things can happen when you really authentically connect with that true divine spark within. We're going to tell you exactly what you need to know to get there. But the first thing that we need to cover today is the shift that we're going through right now. Now, we have crashed down from a 5D vibration to a 3D vibration. Okay, maybe you've noticed that that's happening. Maybe there's been a little bit of a dip. Maybe you're starting to recognise it now that we're talking about it. Now, if you have, and if that's been your experience, which it is for all of us, don't worry. This is perfectly normal, because January tends to ground us back to reality. So after we have the high vibrational peak of the winter solstice, where we are really in a high vibration, we're in a 5D vibration throughout December, then we have this crash back down. This is important because it balances our energies, it grounds our energies. We really have to do this to be able to go to another peak again. So there's nothing wrong if you're feeling like you've gone back down to 3D, that's okay. It's on purpose. It has a spiritual meaning and purpose at the moment. So apart from the fact that the winter solstice energies really do skyrocket us up to this 5D vibration every single December, and we're there for a long time, we've also usually spent most of the time of December, feeling joyful, celebrating with friends and family. We've been connecting, we've had enjoyable food and drink, we've been having the freedom of some time off to relax, and all of those things keep us in a kind of up, higher vibration. It makes it easier for us to stay and maintain that 5D vibration. But before we know it, January is upon us and we're confronted with 3D reality. And we have to return to work, we have to return to our normal life. We feel exhausted, maybe even, a little bit blue. Funds might be tight after Christmas and New Year has passed, and there's a natural resistance within us to go back to what sometimes feels like the boring old mundane routine. And crash, that's us. We are back in 3D when that happens. Maybe you're feeling that right now. We are in the 3D vibration once more. But what you might not realise is that this particular dip into 3D, which we would usually aim to avoid, is actually a fantastic opportunity. It is an opportunity to bring a part of ourselves to the fore that is usually very, very difficult to access. But January, this time right after the winter solstice, just gives us such an easy opportunity to connect to it, and I'm going to explain how. So it lets us connect to our true selves. That's really what that energy at the beginning of January and throughout January is all about. So when we dip back down into that 3D energy, it's not like any other time when we usually dip into 3D energy. It's not just about going into the lower vibrations. Like I said, it's positive, it's purposeful, it's going to ground us, it's going to balance our energies out after that peak, super high peak of the winter solstice. But contrary to what you might think, it's actually a really awesome opportunity to connect with our true selves, because this winter solstice has been purging and clearing us. So we've spent December, and maybe even slightly before then, purging and clearing because of these high frequency winter solstice energies. So when we move into January, we are the purest we're going to be all year. We are the clearest we're going to be energetically all year. And the winter solstice did that work for you. You didn't even have to do a thing. It was that vibration was there. You were clearing, you were healing. And what it's done is it's really taken you back to your truest divine nature. So it's taken all the other stuff out of the auric field. You're cleansed, you're purged, you're as clear as you're going to be. So then the resistance of returning to 3D normal life is actually transformed into something totally different. It becomes something different, and then it becomes something purposeful, because it becomes a real-time indicator of all of the ways that we are out of alignment with who we truly are. And it gives us an opportunity to recognise what areas of our lives need change, what areas of our lives need adjustment. Because your soul's telling you in real time exactly where you are out of alignment. This doesn't fit, this doesn't feel right. I'm resisting going back to this. Why? And you need to look at those things, because your true self is speaking to you in that moment. It's leading you to your best life, your best self, in that very moment when you start to feel those feelings. So are you going to listen to that sacred guidance? Are you going to pretend you didn't hear it until it comes around next year? Because it will. It'll just cycle around every single year. You need to listen. You need to hear the call, and you should really use this opportunity. It's really one time in a year that we are that pure, we're that clear, we've just been cleansed. It's the perfect time to connect with your true self. It's a lot more difficult at any other time. But how do we do that? How do we access that true divine part of ourselves? How can we connect with it, not only to make this particular 3D dip spiritually significant, spiritually meaningful, but also how to express our true selves, to access our spiritual gifts, our healing abilities, our intuitive abilities, and the light that we know that we are inside. That's not really that easy thing to do. Well, the trouble is, accessing your true divine self isn't as easy as you would think it would be. We all know that light workers like us have lived many, many lifetimes before, where we've been judged, persecuted, harmed for really bringing our gifts and abilities to the fore, really sharing our healing abilities, helping others with their intuitive skills, standing up for what we believe in. And unfortunately, when this happens, our souls start to put limiters and blocks on certain aspects of who we are. So it might be that it's about hiding your gifts and abilities from others so that you'll never be harmed again, so that you'll never be hurt. It's a survival mechanism of the soul, but it's also that protection mechanism, making sure that these bad things don't happen again. So no matter how hard we try, no matter how much we intend to connect to our true self, that stuff is in the way. Like a block between you and your true self. There's all this other, baggage, all this negative emotional content that stops you from really connecting to that true part of who you are. So when you can remove that, when you can clear that, accessing the true self becomes absolutely effortless, because it's who you are. It just emanates off you. That love and light just radiates off you, because it's who you are when all those blocks aren't in the way. That divine love and light radiates from you, and it guides you to what's right for you. So this is when we step into what we were talking about earlier, about that flow, that universal flow, that energy flow. When you know you're in the flow, things are moving smoothly, things are going right, and there's no blocks, there's no frustrations, there's no obstacles that are coming up that shouldn't be in the way. It really makes a big difference in how we live our lives, whether we're going to go with the flow or whether we're going to get thrown around as a result of it. It's a really very powerful thing to do, but we need to make sure that the soul feels safe. That's the key thing. I've seen it with my clients in sessions. If your soul doesn't feel safe, that stuff just won't come to the surface. It might even hide it from your view. You might think you don't have these gifts and abilities, and it's actually because they've been hidden. Your soul's trying to protect you. So if you can use this precious opportunity, this January energy, when we've just been freshly cleared by the winter solstice energies, you'll be able to connect more deeply with your true self. You can be more authentically true to who you are and as a soul, and you can draw your spiritual gifts and abilities to the front so that they're accessible and useful to you. And of course, let it lead you to that higher vibrational experience where you're just in the flow. It's a totally different feeling. That's when you move back into 5D vibration. So then the dip can become worth something to help you to get back to 5D. And that's what it's all about. So, your true self is calling. Are you going to answer? So let's talk about a little bit more about exactly what true self is, because I think we've covered the concepts, but I just want to make sure that we understand really what it means. So true self is, of course, who you really are. Who you really are, deep down in that essence, that divine soul spark. Not how you look, not your programs, not your conditioning, not even who you think you are. It is your soul, that divine spark of light that's within. It's who you are without the false self. If you took the false self away, what would be left? That's who you really are. Not the part of you that pretends, not the part of you that acts a certain way because you think you should, or because it's expected of you, or because there's obligations. It's just the goodness within you. False self is how you behave. True self is the goodness within you. So consider it your original divine blueprint, so to speak, before anything ever affected you, anything ever hurt you, before you had any lifetimes. It's taking you back to that perfect spark of light. Now, the next question would be, why should you connect with your true self? Well, most of us on the awakening pathway do yearn to kind of discover and embody more about who we really are, and truly within, and for good reason, because it is the next step, it's the next milestone in your spiritual awakening. You absolutely cannot proceed on your spiritual path unless you complete this lesson. You can't move forward into ascension with false self stuff, embodying who you are most of the time, or even part of the time. It needs to go. You can't express false self that amount of the time. It's a low, dense vibration. So when that happens, you're out of alignment with your true self. And of course, that shifts things for you. That means that you're going to struggle to draw positive things into your life. You're going to feel stuck. You might feel uncertain on what way to go next, or how to move forward. You might know that you've got spiritual gifts and abilities, but either they don't really work that well, or you just can't seem to connect with them. You can't quite seem to access them, even though you know that they should be in there somewhere. That's usually what happens when you're in false self, or you're not quite aligning with your true self. So the great thing is that when you do get into alignment, not only do you get into the flow, but you get immediate shifts. You get guidance, you get signs, you start to recognise that everything's happening for you. It's a different energy. And of course, January is the best time of the year when you could be connecting to true self, because like I said, we have just moved out of that winter solstice energy where we've been purged, incredibly so. We are the clearest and purest energetic vibration that we're going to be all year, thanks to what the winter solstice has just done. So this is a great time to do it. And as we move back into going back to normal life and, becoming reacquainted with our usual routines, we start to recognise where things are out of alignment, where things just don't feel quite right. There's resistance to going back. And of course, it tells us everything we need to know. The soul will always tell you what you need to know. Now let's talk about some signs that you are seriously out of alignment with your true self, because true self isn't something that you need to develop or struggle to access. It is, effortless. Connecting with your divine self is absolutely effortless. It takes no effort whatsoever if you know how. It's easy to access your true self, but it's quite difficult to spot when you're actually out of alignment with it. How would you know? How would you know? So let's talk about 3 indicators that will let you know if you are out of alignment with your true self, and then don't worry, we'll talk about how you can adjust that if that's happening to you. It's nothing to worry about. So sign number 1 is kind of what I mentioned before. Nothing's going right. So it's a simple one, but alignment is reflected. Alignment with self is reflected in alignment in your life. So if you find that things are always going wrong, that things never work out right, that there's always an obstacle or a struggle or something getting in the way for you to move forward, it's most likely because you're out of alignment with your true self. And misalignment isn't always a huge thing. It can be lots of little moments in a day that let you know that you're off track. So maybe you get a flat tire, maybe you lose your keys, maybe you're constantly being late. It can be all those little things that's just like, a little bit off, and the next thing, a little bit off, and you just know somewhere within, it's like, today's not flowing, something's not going right. You're out of alignment with your true self, and it can happen really quickly. Sign number 2 is that you don't say what you really mean. Now, it's so ingrained in us that we actually do this unconsciously all the time. So please don't just shrug it off, this idea of not saying what you mean, thinking that this indicator doesn't apply to you, because we really all do it. It's in all of us. It's programmed into us from a very young age. Now, maybe it's as simple as sometimes you agree with something that you don't really agree with because you don't want to be the odd one out. Maybe you stay quiet just to keep the peace. That's a big one for light workers. But when we're afraid to speak our truth because we think it'll hurt others or offend others, or it's not nice, or whatever perspective it is we're taking, we can't express ourselves authentically. We can't fully express what it is that we need, what it is that we want, who we are as a person. And when we don't express ourselves authentically, it leaves us feeling quite empty on the inside. That's another reason you'll know that something's out of alignment. You'll feel empty on the inside, and that misalignment can wreak havoc in your life. It can really make it impossible to experience that flow where everything's just moving really easily in life. So watch out for that and say what you really mean. Be authentic and be honest. Now, the third sign, and this is a huge one for light workers, I think almost everyone watching will probably agree with this, is you're too nice. And I say nice, like nice. Now, you maybe align with being nice rather than being authentic. And you tend to make your choices guided by what would be seen as the nicest action, the appropriate response, rather than tuning into what really feels right for you in the moment, what really feels true for you, your values, your beliefs, and who you really are. The world needs more kindness, it needs more compassion, it needs more love, but it also needs more honesty, more authenticity, and more courage too, especially when it comes to ourselves. Now, that doesn't mean that we won't hold ourselves accountable and we won't take responsibility, but it means that we can take responsibility for our own happiness and our own growth as we move along the way too. So break free of people pleasing. It is really a very dense vibration. It's a low vibration and it will hold you back. Break free of that and lean into authenticity to bring your spiritual wisdom and your guidance forward, because it will start to shift pretty immediately when you lean more into your authentic self. Okay, so now that we've talked about what you need to watch out for, let's talk about our special 3-step system that you can use to find your authentic self. And there's so much more to it than that, it just doesn't even cover it. But I know it can be tough to figure out who you truly are, what your mission is in the world, what you're meant to do with your life. A lot of us struggle with that for a long time, and light workers do too. Maybe you've tried a lot of different things and you just feel like none of it's really helped you connect within. Well, that's not uncommon, and don't worry about it, because it's really very easy for you to find and connect with your true self and let that soul shine. It's really, really easy. And January, like I said, is one of the easiest times to do it throughout the year. It just gives us that little gateway where we've just been purged and cleansed, and we can really work with it very, very easily from there. So let's talk about our special 3 steps to help you to connect to your authentic self, access your hidden spiritual gifts and abilities, and manifest a higher vibrational life that flows with ease. So here we go. Step 1, choose to live authentically. Now, that sounds really basic, but you need to stop squashing the authentic you. You need to choose to stop doing that. You need to speak truthfully. You can still be compassionate and you can still be kind, but watch out for all those tiny little moments in a day where you slip into patterns of misalignment with yourself. It might be as simple, like I said before, as agreeing to something that doesn't feel right, or acting out of obligation rather than that genuine intent, or taking on more than you can manage in a day. That's a big light worker one, just so that you can be nice. The more you lean into being authentic, the more, even in small steps every day, the more that you're going to find you'll begin to sense a shift in your life really quite quickly. So choose to live authentically in every tiny little moment and recognise, am I speaking my truth? Am I connecting with who I really am and embodying and expressing that right now? Step 2 is use energy healing to release the false self. So the truth is that your true self has always and will always be there. That's unavoidable. It's a part of you. It can't be removed. It can't be taken away. But since your soul has spent so long hiding, you've forgotten how to embody it. The false self is largely running the show, and you need to show the soul that it's safe to be here now, that it's safe to be who you are. And we'll talk a little bit more about this in a moment and what's causing that. And we also need to clear some of that false self energy, because it can create huge resistance. It doesn't want to go. And that can't be overcome with willpower alone. So you really need to use energy healing to start to untangle some of that and undo some of the programming that's in there. And don't worry, it's not as complicated as it sounds. It's actually very easy. We'll get to that in just a second. And step 3 is clear blocks to expressing true self, because we all have them. I've seen it a million times with my energy clients. Light workers like us have spent lifetime upon lifetime bringing our spiritual gifts and intuitive abilities over and over again, in hopes of helping to uplift humanity, helping to serve. but we've been judged, we've been criticised, we've been rejected, we've been persecuted, ridiculed, we've even been harmed. Now, that naturally creates internal blocks in your energy system that are there to block and limit, ultimately to protect us. It's to make sure that we never come to that sort of harm ever again. And we set our energies to hide our intuitive abilities, our healing powers, our psychic gifts. We hide all of that. We hide who we truly are at the core. We hide who we really are at the core, even sometimes from ourselves. I see that a lot in sessions. Like, people just can't seem to find who they really are because there's all this programming in the way that's got to protect you. And the sad thing is that means that when we try to embody our divine selves, our true selves, we have these self-imposed limits on the soul that block us from really getting through and connecting with that. They make it almost impossible to connect. Now, they're only trying to protect us, but it means that we'll never really know ourselves unless we move those out of the way. We'll never really fulfill our missions. We'll never really move forward because ultimately we're stuck in the past. It's a different time now. It's safe for you to be who you truly are. It's safer than it's ever been. So step forward, clear yourself, and you'll clear your misalignment. It's really, really very simple. And energy healing is a fantastic way to do that. Now, if you want some help with clearing your blocks to true self and embodying your true self energy, we believe the best way to do that is with the energy healing. And we've got a special meditation for you. It's called the True Self Remembrance meditation. It's going to teach your energies how to do all the things that we've talked about so that we can really clear false self. We can shed that, and we can start to activate true self and really bring that to the forefront again, showing your soul that it's perfectly safe, that everything's okay, and that it's safe to embody who you really are. We're going to bring it right to the front, and we got some really incredible downloads and interesting insights when we were doing the work. We had original divine soul blueprints coming through from a whole other time. It's really very cool. But for now, let's have a little talk about what we have learned so far. So we talked about how we have crashed down from 5D to 3D, but it's okay and it has a purpose, and it's going to help us to align with who we really are by looking at what's going on in our lives and what doesn't feel quite right, what we have resistance to. And also we know that it is the purest and clearest our energy is going to be throughout the entire year in January, because we've just been purged by the winter solstice. So it's a great time to just really easily connect to the true self because it's so accessible at the surface, really easy to do. We talked about 3 signs that you are out of alignment with your true self. So watch out for those signs that maybe nothing is going right. You don't say what you really mean, or you're being too nice. Watch out for that, light workers, being too nice. And 3 steps to finding your authentic self. It was step 1, choose to live authentically. Step 2, use energy healing to release the false self. Get that out of the way so that you can connect with true self much more easily. It's also a big part of letting go of the ego too. And step 3, clear blocks to expressing true self. So all that past life stuff that holds you back, that makes you afraid for people to see who you are, showing your system that it's perfectly safe now. Now, the good news is you don't need to go to energy healers, you don't need to train in energy healing, you don't need expensive repeated sessions. If you're ready to get started on connecting with that authentic, true, divine self now, then we can help you to do that. You can check out our brand new energy healing meditation, the True Self Remembrance meditation, and it's specifically created to help you shed that false self, connect with your true, authentic, divine soul self, to experience alignment with higher vibrational living. It's all about moving into that with ease, making it really easy to connect with that, because it's a 5D energy taking you back up. Now, we can get started in about 10 minutes time. You will not find an energy healing product like this anywhere else. Our meditations are a really special blend of guided meditation, which is nice and relaxing, and energy healing and activations. So it's really meditation with a purpose. We're making activations and energy healing and clearing while we're relaxed and meditating. It's very, very powerful. It's the equivalent of a specifically tailored energy healing with me, because I work with a collection of high vibrational spirit guides who are dedicated to helping us on the awakening pathway. And when you watch the meditations, they immediately go to work on your behalf, and they specifically tailor the energy healing just for you, depending on your energies, depending on your awakening, depending on all the different aspects of your energy. They will adjust that for you and for your highest, best good. So You can use the meditation over and over again to heal more layers as you go through, and you can use it at your own pace from the comfort of your own home. Now this meditation is going to do a few key things that are really quite big. So it's going to release resistance to expressing your true essence. It's going to heal lifetimes where you were judged, persecuted, harmed for standing up for your beliefs. It's going to clear blocks of self-criticism, judgment and hiding, because we get it from outside and it becomes a fear, and then we do that to ourselves within. We criticise ourselves, we judge ourselves. So we're going to be clearing that. That then gives us the space to shed the false self. So we're really moving into a lot of kind of ego clearing there, which is a really big deal. We're going to help you remember who you really are on the soul level. We're going to connect you with your true, authentic self and teach your energies how to express it effortlessly so that it just emanates off you in love and light. And we're going to let your soul speak its higher truth and wisdom so that you can be guided to your higher vibrational living by simply just watching out for what's going on around you, what signs are coming up. You can check it out below and see if it resonates with you.